This book has been out almost a year, and it's the first time I've heard of it anywhere.
Yeah.
Even though on Amazon, it was the #1 best-selling book on Amazon of any category, which I've never even heard of before. So there's definitely a big demand for this information, but it's just not. It should be all over the news, and I just don't know why they're not talking about it.
Right.
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for joining us again on our second act with Paige and Silka. I'm happy to say that Dr. John DeWitt is back with us for another segment on the latest advances of cognitive decline and how we can actually prevent and cure Alzheimer's. Dr. DeWitt, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
If you missed our last segment, of course, we will link to that. Dr. DeWitt is a former NFL player and a public speaker, a best-selling author, and he's on a path to find the latest advances on cognitive decline research and treatment. And on this segment, we want to talk about the importance of nutrition and just being aware of our environment and how that actually causes and progresses this disease. Talk to me about that.
It's really interesting because today's American diet is just so toxic, and people just don't even realize it. And that's, as we mentioned in the first episode, we were talking about how when you have the amyloid plaque in your brain, it's actually your brain trying to protect the body because it's exposed to all these inflammatory foods, and it's good in a short term in an acute situation. But because in America, all of our foods, or not all, but a lot of the common fast foods obviously cause chronic inflammation, so the brain can't deal with that, and so that's why it adds the plaquing in there. And also, they found in Alzheimer's they have the tau proteins as well, which are found in professional athletes that have had multiple concussions with the CTE. And so that's when I realized that these kind of go hand in hand because it's all the same organ and long-term effects with that organ. But one of the main things is sugar. One of the main problems is sugar because our bodies are only built to handle about 15 grams of sugar the entire day. And one soda can have up to 100 grams of sugar. So you really have to be careful what you're putting in your mouth because it can cause a lot of issues. If there's any chronic stress, any sleep problems, that's going to cause issues in the body and high cortisol levels, and that's going to affect your cognitive function. But as far as specific foods, he is a big fan of mushrooms. He likes mushrooms because of the good, healthy phytonutrients that they have. He likes cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, cauliflower. What people don't realize is that broccoli and cauliflower, per weight, you actually have more protein per weight than actual steak or chicken, because steak and chicken's mostly fat and sinew and stuff. So people are like, wait, that's weird. So we always tell people in the office that if they can go to YouTube and look up the video, Dude, Where's My Protein? It's kind of a satirical, funny video, but it talks about how vegetables, you can get more high quality protein out of those vegetables than meats. And it's interesting too, because Dr. Bredesen breaks it down into, you have green light foods, yellow light foods you can eat sometimes, and then red light foods. So some of the green light foods are, as I said, the mushrooms, cruciferous vegetables. The ones that you can eat sometimes, but not a whole lot, are the nightshade, like tomatoes, peppers, things like that, which I thought was interesting because I thought vegetables are vegetables, but he just points it out that, you can eat it sometimes, just not all the time. And even free range chicken, he's like, you don't want to eat that all the time. You can do it sometimes, just not all the time, because it's a plant-based diet is going to get your body and your system into more of an alkaline state, so a lot less acidic. And that's going to help the brain to function better, because the brain itself is about 60% water. And so you have a lot of water. It's kind of like the consistency. They always say, it's kind of a weird definition, but they say that, or description, the brain has the consistency of soft butter. And so it's just kind of really fragile in there. But one of the things I wanted to talk to as well, just really quickly, is the fact that coffee, people talk about coffee, bulletproof coffee, and how that's such a great thing. You have the different butter and the oils and stuff. Now, especially if you are APOE4 positive, like we talked about in the last
which is
episode,
the Alzheimer's gene.
which is Alzheimer's gene. If you are positive for that, you're able to consume and utilize fats better. So you can use the MCT oils, the the omega-3s. Something he goes into even more, and we can talk about this more later, but he talks about there are actual medications that can lead to cognitive dysfunction. And for a medical doctor to admit that, it was pretty shocking, because he said blood pressure medications, not necessarily good for cognitive dysfunction, but when you think about it, if it's affecting your circulation, then you're not going to be getting as much oxygen to the brain, and that's going to cause some problems. Statin medications, he said those are one of the worst, because cholesterol, he says that he recommends at least a cholesterol level of 150 or higher. And he said that that's because all the hormones that we use in our body are actually originated from cholesterol.
I'm so glad you brought that up. My father was both on the statin and what was what you
Blood
said?
pressure.
Thank you. And it was horrible. And when I finally, when he moved in with us, and I took him to a integrative physician who looked at all the medication, they were just shocked. And that so many people are affected by that. It's thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating, because it's like, okay, you've got big pharma that are making millions and millions of dollars, or billions of dollars. What am I saying? But we spend over $220 million a year just on Alzheimer's and dementia, trying to find a solution, and just all the things, caregivers and all that. And because of that, within the next decade or two, we're going to bankrupt Medicare, because they just can't. I mean, they keep digging the hole, making it deeper, deeper, deeper. And Dr. Bredesen has finally taken this new functional approach, which I really believe is going to change everything. It's just going to be a matter of how much does the big pharma get behind it and kind of try to promote it. Because this book has been out almost a year, and it's the first time I've heard of it anywhere. Even though on Amazon, it was the #1 best-selling book on Amazon of any category, which I've never even heard of before. So there's definitely a big demand for this information, but it's just not. It should be all over the news, and I just don't know why they're not talking about it.
Right. Well, I'm going to just say that because it's not an easy fix. It's not one pill.
That's true.
You're describing a diet where people who eat meat, there's going, oh God, it's the last thing I want to hear. It's too complicated. Well, it's not.
No.
Especially yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that's the hardest thing, is any lifestyle change. People just don't want to do it, and it's all a perspective thing, because it's just like, they're like, I'm older and I can't change, and I'm used to this, and I have to have my dad still smokes cigars every day and drives me crazy, because that's one of the bad things. You don't want that, because that's going to cause all kinds of issues. And what we don't realize is when we're younger, that this comes into a whole mental perspective on things. When we're younger, it's like, I want to do this. I want to be a fireman when I grow up, and you do whatever it takes to be a fireman. But when we get older, we focus more on our limitations and what we can't do and why we can't do something. And it's like, oh no, I'm too tired. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And when you focus on your limitations, that's what you get, is just more of those limitations. So you're not going to get where you want to be in life unless you're actually focusing on where you want to go and do whatever it takes to get there.
Well, and with Alzheimer's affecting, I believe it's now 1 in every 3 people are going to die of it.
Yeah, they're saying in the next generation, it could be as high as 50% of all Americans could have Alzheimer's if they go down this route still.
It's horrible. Well, I want to hold you over for one other segment where I want to be a little bit in your face.
Okay.
And to where people, not in your face, but in your face, about what behaviors causes Alzheimer's, because one of the problems I see, young people don't worry about it because they don't think that it's ever going to happen to them.
And that's the interesting thing. I don't mean to interrupt, but he talks about how they say right now there's about 5 million people that have Alzheimer's in America, but the reality is there's people that have symptoms and actually the precursors to get it. They just don't know it yet. So that number actually is more accurate. It's probably more around 40 million.
Scary, scary, scary. And if you're around it at all and you see it, you want to prevent it. And what is ending on a positive note, we can actually reverse it with this approach. So stay with us and let's talk about what absolutely not to do and be aware of when it comes to fighting and reversing this disease. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you found today's segment helpful. For more information on this very important topic, please visit our website, secondact.tv. I've also provided links to all of Dr. DeWitt's information below. And if you haven't done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. Button's right over here. Thank you.